Hey, welcome back to my channel, guys. Sorry for the absence. I know I haven't uploaded at all for a month. I've had quite a few personal things going on. But now that we're in February, hopefully I'll post more content, more interesting content for you guys. So please continue tuning in. But let's get straight into this one. So obviously yesterday was the Madrid Derby. Real Madrid went temporarily 6 points clear as Barcelona play later on tonight, beating Atletico Madrid 1-0. It was a great match, a match of two halves really, and I am so pleased to be joined by a very respected member of football Twitter. I think he's not only respected in terms of La Liga Twitter, I think Premier League Twitter definitely knows of him. It's Michael, otherwise known as Cholo Cholo. So he doesn't need much of more of an introduction. So let's bring him in here. Michael, thanks for joining me. What are your overall thoughts on the game and the standout players from yesterday?
Yeah, it's great to be here, man. Thanks for pulling me in. I apologize ahead of time. I just had jaw surgery a couple of weeks ago, so my speech isn't quite up to par. Hopefully, it won't be too distracting. But yeah, man, it was an interesting match. You know, honestly, not quite what I expected. I thought Madrid coming in with just better form and the stronger side would be a little bit more dominant. Atleti was missing key players all over the pitch, especially Koke in midfield. So I was a little underwhelmed with how Zidane put the team out, but it was only a first half issue. I thought first half, man, Llorente, Partey were standouts for Atleti. The former Madrid kid, he was pretty stout in front of defense. Benzema was made pretty anonymous the whole time, very tidy with the ball. Partey was similarly effective. I almost felt bad for him. You know, he made a few good runs, evaded pressure well, but there's nobody really in front of him to do anything. Typically with Madrid, the central defenders were impressive, covered up a couple mistakes well. Varane using that pace. And I continue to be impressed with Mendy. You know, I posted about it. He obviously had a good match. Still has some issues with positioning, I think, especially when he goes forward, but had the assist. I wouldn't say anything historically good from anyone necessarily. It's a Madrid derby, though. So, you know, what do you expect? It was really the halftime adjustments that changed the whole match for me.
Yeah, I thought Ferland Mendy was particularly impressive, as was Madrid's defence in general. But I did think Atletico had the better first half, and I think they potentially could have capitalised a bit better. I mean, what do you think Diego Simeone could have done in that first half to ensure his team capitalised on Real not really being there in the first half? I felt Zidane made a mistake with I tweeted before the match, before the team was announced actually, that I hope he doesn't go with five midfielders, and he did, and I felt it was going to be an error from that. And it turned out to be an error. But what did you think? So like Real Madrid were quite absent in the first half. What do you think Simeone could have done differently to, I don't know, maybe taken a goal or two lead into the second half, sorry.
Yeah, you're spot on. I thought Zidane got it wrong too. The whole shape for Madrid was really exploitable, man. You know, at times they had three central midfielders dropping back in front of defense. Isco had a forgettable match to say the least. I thought, you know, they did well enough. Within the first 15, 20 minutes, Vitolo put a nice ball in that sent, who was it, Versalico, I think, had to send Courtois down for a save. So, and Vitolo, again, he had a good first half in general, got behind the midfield a good bit, spun Ramos once, but it's typical stuff from Atletico Madrid. No finishing. Correa missed one chance right before halftime. There was the penalty shout for Morata that, you know, I guess that's debatable whether or not it was worth a call, but either way, that's maybe 2-3 chances in the whole first half for Atleti. So that's the question, right? Was it just finishing? I don't think so. The fullbacks didn't do enough overlapping. Like I said, there was a lot of space, specifically on the left side there behind Madrid's midfield to be attacked. Lodi didn't do that. I don't know how much of that you put on Simeone, though. I mean, poor finishers all season. Nobody who's going to just go grab a goal for you. No penetration. Madrid had three central midfielders in front of the defenders for a lot of the time there. So was there more space to go after? Yeah. I think he had the right lineup, though, with two wide attacking midfielders out there. Just not many chances to take, man. Madrid, again, credit to the central defense and credit to the way that Zidane set up to limit chances, but that didn't really help them until the second half, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to that second half because obviously Zidane took Isco and Cruz off, and he brought on Lucas Vazquez and Vinicius. Cruz was the interesting one. I didn't think he'd get chopped, and I thought he might have been injured, but it was clearly a tactical decision to leave Modric on, and crucially, the formation change meant Fede Valverde, who was playing on the right, and was doing his thing, but he's not. That's not his position, and he's not best placed there. He does his best operative work in the center of the park. And once that formation changed, boy, Fede Valverde came to life. And it was from that moment where I felt like Real Madrid won the match from that formation change. How crucial were those two changes for you? And also, was it surprising that Simeone could have done a lot more to combat Zidane's changes? He took Morata off for Lamar, but could he have done more?
You're spot on. You're spot on. So I was surprised too that it was Modric who didn't come off. I know he had I saw a stat he completed 100% of passes in the first half, but still, Tony. I mean, you never want to take off your controller. I think maybe Zidane was thinking that by bringing on two attacking players, Atleti would maybe go at the midfield a bit more. They wanted Cruz to stay on for some defensive help. Maybe I'm not sure why he did that, but he got it spot on. Vinicius, especially. I mean, he had a man of the match performance in the second half, completely wrecked Atleti's game plan. When Morata went off, I don't know what that was about, man. I thought maybe he had an issue, some kind of injury. And I know Simeone said after he was trying to protect the kid, maybe, had some muscular discomfort or something is what I saw. But he seemed to be upset when he came off. And when Morata came off, the whole shape of Atleti changed. They had no focal point in attack. You ended up having to bring on two attacking midfielders, really, and Lemar and their new homeboy coming back. So it was a little bit of a weird shape. So was there more that Atleti could have done? I don't know, man. With the people on the bench not having any other forwards, I'm not sure what he could have done. Correa had to move centrally, and he's not a 9. He has no grit. He's not going to go after Ramos or anything like that. So it was disappointing, to say the least, from Atletico's standpoint. But at the end of the day, it was really Vinicius with the pre-assist, obviously. But even before that, for me, almost immediately, he turned this into a whole new match. Went right after the fullbacks, forced Vitolo to tuck back in. Vitolo, I thought, was I would say, the best player for Atletico in the first half. So whenever Vinicius came on, he forced Vitolo to tuck back in and start switching sides a good bit. And that pretty much killed Atletico's whole attack. Nowhere to put the ball, nobody running in behind the midfielders. It was static. It was boring, frankly. And I don't even know how many chances they got after the probably, 60-minute mark or so in that match. It was pathetic for a long time there.
Yeah, you talk about Vinicius, and he's starting now to play with a smile on his face. That smile that we saw pre-Ajax injury, he's starting to really enjoy his football. He said immediately after the game, he said, Zidane told me to go out there and just enjoy myself. And you could see just the way he was covering for Furland at times, some like sort of back flicks and back heels and shimmies and going past Atleti players. It was impressive from Vinicius, and I think he is now growing into that player that we all wanted to see pre-Ajax injury, and I'm so happy for him. But Michael, you mentioned it was pathetic from Atletico. Do you think it's almost been like that for the whole season? They seem empty of ideas. Simeone seems empty of ideas. I mean, so that defeat left Atletico in 6th place. They're still 2 points off a UCL spot, but they've only scored 22 goals in 22 games. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the worst ever record for Atletico Madrid in La Liga at this point of a season. So there's clearly issues. For you, what have they been? And how can things improve?
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about because I feel there are some extreme takes with what's happening with Atleti and especially with Simeone. He's in a tough spot. I acknowledge that. He lost the whole spine of his team from last year. The quality of players is just so much lower than it's been in the past 3-4 seasons. Both fullbacks left. You have your holding midfielder gone, Godin, your monstrous captain, leading scorer. Lots of issues. It's a very, very new team. You're in a transition season, and I don't think as a Madrid fan, you understand probably better than most. You want to be careful with how many changes you made in terms of vision and leadership when you're in this much of a transitional time. So I get that. Have grace for Diego. Understand it's a different season. At the same time, a lot of the issues you're seeing right now go back to, 2015-16 season. So this is not new stuff. You don't have much creativity coming in. I don't know what it is about attacking midfielders with Simeone, but he just never seems to be able to get the most from them, whether you're talking Carrasco or Gaitan or now Lemar. Felix, we'll see what happens with him. I know he's not a striker. He's sort of a deeper forward. But there seems to be something about the way Simeone sets up his teams where these creative players who really rely on a lot of freedom up front in attack never seem to thrive. This season's been a little bit different. He's giving guys like Lemar some freedom. You can look at a heat map, for example, and there's more space for these guys. They're creating more chances. They're at least creating more opportunities. They're not creating any more clear chances than you've seen in recent seasons. But even if they were, finishing has been awful. Atrocious. Like you said, you're right. It's the lowest goal tally at this point in the season in league history for Atleti. So a lot of that just comes down to quality. When your best striker or when your best finisher is Morata, no offense to the guy, he's fine in the air, good enough player, but he's not a world class finisher. Never has been. I would say Atleti probably overpaid for him a little bit. I was never a fan of bringing back Costa. I know he had a great first stint with the club. But man, after what happened at the end of his Chelsea stint, his fitness issues, his attitude issues, you hoped for the very best. But I think what we've seen so far is just a completely botched deal. Cavani did end up working out. I'm kind of glad there. I think maybe people were expecting a little bit too much for a guy like that at his age. And I'm glad they didn't overpay to get him from PSG. But at the end of the day, my point is there's no one finishing the chances, even if you were creating them. And you don't have a physical enough forward. You don't have any clinical people. It's huge. It's massive. But again, this is not a new issue. This has been a problem for 3 going on 4 seasons for this side. Even Griezmann, you had the same issues in the first half of the last 2 seasons. So it's not new. It's just I think the problems are being exploited more. And add on to that the issues with some midfield changes and the whole back line being different. I think the problems are bigger now, but fundamentally they're the same. So some real questions have to be asked about leadership after this season, I think.
So yeah, you touched upon Cavani, but if, as you say, you were quite happy that the Cavani move didn't happen, but there were other strikers on the market in the month. Paquetá went to Villarreal. Even Haaland. Haaland could have been tracked more intensely by Atletico Madrid because he would have started. Ultimately, he wanted a project where he could start and where he could continue developing. Dortmund gave that to him. Atleti could have given that to him. You talk about physical strikers. Haaland may have been the answer. Why don't you think that issue was addressed? Clearly, you do need a striker, but it wasn't addressed. And on the João Felix argument, so I just dug up some stats about him in La Liga. He's clearly not the same player he was last season. 17 games he's played, 2 goals and 1 assist in the league this season. He's struggling, he's sulking, and I think I remember him. There's a quote of him which was doing the rounds, that he was regretting almost regretting joining Atletico and leaving Benfica. Do you think he left too soon? Do you think he chose the wrong club? And how do you think Simeone and Atletico can change this? Because João Felix is a ridiculously talented player. He's just not playing as one.
Yeah, that's tricky, man. I mean, you see this a lot with clubs. You even saw it with Barcelona, a giant club when they lost Neymar, where a club loses a leading scorer or a star forward, and they're in kind of scramble mode. They have to get a big signing in to please fans. You have to get someone who can at least replace a similar level of output, and you want to think long term this time. So was he a good signing? Oh man, far too soon to tell, frankly. Uh, he's not someone that I would say I would have gone for at that price. You could have gotten a couple of other guys who are under 25 that maybe give you a higher chance of succeeding outright, especially especially with the way this side lines up in attack. So I'm not going to be harsh on the kid. I think it's a new club, the biggest club he's played for so far, definitely the toughest league, in a system that demands a whole lot from a forward. He's not there yet. He doesn't have the lungs. He doesn't have the fitness yet. He's. I think the worst thing we can do is put a lot on his shoulders just because we paid a lot to get him. But nonetheless, that's the reality of football. Can he handle the pressure? I'm sure he can. Is he the right fit? My gut told me no from the beginning. Obviously, I hope for the best, but a player like that, I think, thrives in a more progressive team. He thrives with a lot of people feeding him. We'll see. As for your first point, I think you're spot on. Why was Cavani the only guy that this team seemed to go after? And why did it, again, we see this all the time with teams that try to deal with PSG. They take it to the very last minute. At the end, they either overpay or they don't get their guy. Surely, surely Simeone and his team were scouting someone else in Europe. You mentioned Paco. Why not go for him? Why not find someone who could just come in and be a backup, offer something a little different, a little bit more physical, someone who's just more clinical in front of goal? Right now, you look, they have Costa, who's injured, and he's probably better injured than when he was on the pitch. You got Felix, Correa, very, very similar players. Morata he's fine, and again, he's a threat in the air. He's been pretty great, I would say, this season overall, all things considered. But where's your deadly, hungry for goal forward? Why is Cavani the only person they went after? I don't know. Maybe they went after other people and just got priced out. I get the sense that because they've already invested so much, they wanted to maybe save some money. And at the end of the day, Cavani ended up being more than they were willing to pay. I know Cerezo came out yesterday and had some cryptic messages for why things broke down. Sounds like maybe Cavani's people were demanding some interesting things in the deal. We won't know that for a while, but it's very, very disappointing, man. That the problems have been clear. I thought they should have fixed it last summer. So knowing how bad it's gotten, to come away with nobody really except Carrasco, all due respect to him, not someone who's going to solve the issue. It's so disappointing. I don't know how this is going to turn around this season. I think you look toward the summer, you rethink the entire attack. At the end of the day, you start asking, is it time for a manager change? The era of 2012 to 2016-17 peak, that ended last summer when half the team left. So the question now is, do you give Simeone one more year? Do you change him in the summer? When do you start leading a new vision forward? That's the real question now.
And that is exactly the question that I was going to pose to you. What is his future at the club? So he's been there since December 2011, and obviously this his tenure has been unbelievable. He's turned you into such a formidable club, got you to finals and won you a league title. He's a magician in his own right, in his own way, in his own manner. But as you say, is he the one to lead you to this new direction? Can he guide you into this new direction? What do you think? Are you Simeone in? I know a lot of Atletico fans on Twitter are quite harsh when judging him and when sort of calling for criticism on him. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think Simeone is the right man at the moment?
At this exact moment, yes, but this is a very divisive issue. I'll say a couple of things first. You have to acknowledge that what he's done has been historically amazing. You're talking about a third, fourth tier club in Europe that for a number of years, you could debate whether it's 3 or 5 years, was among the very best in football. They beat the best teams in Europe, all but one, ironically, beat the best teams in football for a number of years, took their bigger rivals to the brink, won a league title, were seconds from winning a couple of Champions League trophies. So acknowledge that. What he's done is historically amazing. You can't overpraise what he's done. One of the problems with that is you create a new expectation for people that, frankly, for people who aren't fans of the club, I think a lot of the criticism you're hearing is a bit naive or at least uninformed. It's sort of like after the Guardiola era in Barcelona. When you go win 6 trophies your first year, when you nearly win a treble 2 years later, there's only one direction to go. You're going to go down. You have a decline that's coming. You can't maintain that. Similarly, with the club like Atletico Madrid, at best a second-tier club, I would say a third-tier club, when you have a stretch like you did, winning a Copa del Rey, winning La Liga against the 2 biggest clubs in football, nearly getting a Champions League trophy or 2, there's only one place to go. So now I think the question is, what is Atleti's normal? It's not that. Those are historic highs that couldn't be sustained. They're not going to be a top-tier European football for the next decade. That should never have been the expectation. So now you recalibrate. What's normal? I would say the new expectation is Atleti should be clearly the third best team in Spain. They should be as far ahead of Valencia as they've been in the past 5 years. Valencia, Sevilla, whoever else would be the next big club to come. That's your new normal. You make sure you guarantee Champions League football. Get closer to Madrid than you were pre-Simeone. Don't have these 10, 15, 18-point gaps. But you're never going to be favorites for the title. Own third place. Be a team that threatens everyone else in Europe. Challenge for the Champions League. That's your new normal. So if you can own that and understand that that's the new expectation, understand the kind of players you're going to attract. You're still going to be a selling club. You're still going to lose your star players. That's normal. You're not elite. You're nowhere near elite financially, nowhere close to it. But you can compete with the best in Europe in the Champions League. Okay, that's a long build-up to, is Simeone the person to lead the team forward? I don't think so. He looks tired. I don't know if you saw his last few post-match interviews, but especially in the Copa del Rey loss, he looks beat, man. He looks ready to throw it in, ready for a little bit of a vacation. It's demanding. It's not demanding like being at Madrid or Barcelona or one of your giant clubs, sure, but it's demanding to be in his role. He's done it for nearly a decade. I think he needs a break. I think he needs to go out, get a fresh vision, come back as a little bit of an evolved coach. He's gotten stagnant with some of his ideas. I know he's evolved a little bit this season, but not by much. He needs a break, similar to what Pep had when he left Barcelona. So I say, if I had a choice, let him go this summer. You have enough of a core now that a new manager can come in, build on a young team that can use some, I think, reinvigoration, a new vision to rally behind, change things a little bit. Don't go for Bordalas or somebody who's so defensive minded. Go for someone more like Poch, someone who could come in and be a little more progressive. If you look at the squad right now, the technical quality, the Spanish football that should be able to be played there, there's opportunity to play some, almost some German football out there. I don't know, man. I'm ready to see someone else come in, honor the man that gave Atleti their greatest era ever, a modern legend. Move on, and let's see what the next era can look like. You need something different, and I think the good thing about him leaving now, it would be easier for fans to recalibrate expectations. The longer he's there, the longer that anything short of a Champions League final or running against Madrid in La Liga, the longer that he's around, that's the expectation. And you can only disappoint if the goal is Champions League finals, competing for a league title. It's unrealistic. That time was amazing and so special and sweet for fans, but it's gone. It ended slowly in 2016. It fully ended last summer. You've got to recalibrate, get fans on a better place, think about what the future can look like.
It sounds like you're sort of leaning towards the end of this season for Simeone to walk. Do you think there's a chance for one final hurrah in the Champions League? You've got Liverpool coming up. What are your hopes for that clash? Do you think Atletico can, I don't know, dent Liverpool in any way? I can't see it, but do you see Simeone putting all his eggs into this Champions League basket and saying, look, we're going to do something here, guys?
Well, I'm not betting on it. You see what Liverpool is doing. Historically good stuff in England. You've been to 2 Champions League finals in a row. Whew, am I betting on this Atletico side to win? I don't know that I would bet on a 2016 Atleti side winning. I think they would take it to them and certainly would be able to at their best to beat them. I don't know, man. I mean, any team is beatable. We've seen bigger upsets in Europe, right? We saw Chelsea when they were finishing, 6th, 7th in the league in England. Sure, I think Atletico Madrid is a tough side, always to play against in Europe. Very difficult to break down. Even now, with a defense that's clearly declined, with a central defense that is makeshift, that, from week to week continues to give up too many chances, continues to make more mistakes than they used to. Awful in the air, not so good at set piece. Yeah, even then, they can always threaten a side. Can they score against one of the best defenses in Europe? Whoo, man, they struggle against relegation teams in Spain. Now you're putting them against the reigning champions of Europe. I wouldn't bet on it. It would be miraculous, even if you could, though. Part of me says if they could get past Liverpool, that's the sort of win that gives you confidence to make a championship run. Maybe. But that's not this. This Atletico is not that team. This is the team that could very well pull off a miracle against Liverpool, lose the next week to, lowest ranked team in the next round, whoever it is. So if I'm Simeone, I'm putting, he'll put his balls out there. That is he going to put the focus on Europe? Maybe so. That might end up being their best chances of finishing in the top 4 anyway, or at least earning a Champions League spot for next year. But I'm not very hopeful, man. I'm not optimistic about them beating the best team in Europe right now. No way. You hope, you pray for it. I'm certainly not going to put any money behind it.
You talk about Simeone putting his balls on the line. He'll quite literally do that. Talking about, let's switch to Simeone's opposite number on Saturday, Zinedine Zidane. A lot of praise of him on my timeline, on your timeline, I'm sure. Zinedine Zidane has come back as a far better manager. His in-game management has improved vastly. We already know that his contacts and his ability to sign players and persuade players to join his project is unparalleled. But he looks like a different manager now. Tell me something, Michael. Tell me something that Zidane has done this season, which has gone under the radar. What's something that's impressed you that not a lot of people talk about?
Well, I would say you start in the middle of the park. You start with Casemiro. There's so much. Look at what we're seeing this season with Real Madrid. Okay, you have one player who's in double digits with scoring goals, Benzema. That's it. And he had a goal yesterday. He's been a little bit of a slump, at least in terms of finishing. Still having good matches, still being very involved. But he's the only one finishing consistently right now. You look at the other side, and they're historically good defensively. They're the stingiest Madrid defense we've ever seen in La Liga in terms of goals allowed. It's the least Madrid side we've seen in probably 15, 18 years or so. It makes no sense when you look at the team that is put out. Not significantly different in personnel from the last 2 seasons. It's amazing. It's like a whole new team. Obviously, you see a lot in the fullbacks. You see Marcelo losing his spot. Wisely, he's been in a sharp decline for 2 going on 3 seasons. He's been exploitable. He's just not the player he was going forward. He was never a stout defender. So what you're seeing with Mendy specifically has been nothing short of amazing, shoring up the entire side, which frees up Valverde, it frees up Modric whenever he plays over there to do a lot in midfield. Same thing with Carvajal. I mean, when he had the issues, what was it been? Almost 2 years ago with his heart. He's been in a slump, man. You're talking about the best fullback and best player for my money in his position for a number of years, being in a 2-year slump where I wouldn't say he was even top 3 in Spain. His return to form has been pretty spectacular. Same thing with Varane, with Ramos especially, the entire back line. All of that for me comes down to how Zidane is using the midfielders, specifically Casemiro, but the whole central midfield, pulling them a little bit deeper, a little bit more in coverage, protecting the central defense. But he almost has Ramos more. I haven't looked yet. I would love to look at a heat map, a position map for Ramos this season compared to last season, but even more than that, going back 2 seasons before Zidane came in. I feel like he's getting forward a lot less. I feel like he's being way more disciplined with when he attacks, with how much he's challenging in midfield. When you change that in and of itself, that alone, having him drop back more, not being so reckless, not taking so many runs forward, you allow the central midfield to be a little more disciplined. That changes everything. I mean, look how many chances they're giving up, let alone goals. Look how many chances Madrid is giving up now compared to 12 and especially 24 months ago. It's night and day, and it's the same people in central defense. So that comes down to tactics. It's not perfect. As you saw yesterday, Zidane still has a lot of issues with preparation. He throws out some weird formations sometimes. The way he uses, I don't know if he's trying to please all the midfielders or what. You see, this is not the first time you see the 5-man midfield. Rarely does it work. They're not creating as many chances as you would expect. I know a lot of that comes down to guys like Bale and Hazard not really hitting their stride yet, or for Bale not hitting it for a long time. But still, it comes down to tactics. Nonetheless, I think he's grown as a tactician. I think he's grown as a manager. Like you said, in-game adjustments has been much, much better. This is a team to look out for, man. They're not blowing away La Liga. You know, Barcelona's in a dip. That makes them look. I think that makes Madrid look a little better domestically than they actually are. Overall, you can't argue with the defensive record, but I think they look a little better domestically than they actually are. Nonetheless, that's the kind of team that you're afraid of in the Champions League. The Madrid from 2-3 years ago that you're afraid of because they have Ronaldo coming at you and they're threatening 3-4 goals a match. That's not this team anymore. This is the one that you're wondering, can I break them down enough over 2 legs to get 2 or 3 goals to win out? It's very, very different, but for me, it's exciting. It's a Madrid I haven't seen for a very, very long time. I think if you're a fan that came along with Ronaldo, the results are exciting, or the results are at least pleasing. Maybe it's less exciting football. You're a little more concerned, but I think this is a side that can pull off a double.
Yeah, spot on. I completely agree. I think he's done so much since returning, but I think defensively he's just made us so impressive. And this introduction of Ferland Mendy as well, who are now, I believe, totally he is Zidane's number 1 choice. I just think Ferland Mendy being there has helped Sergio Ramos so much. Rafael Varane had issues as well last season, as did many players. Cruz, Casemiro, Varane, Carvajal, so many players. It was across the board. Everyone had issues. But Varane's looking like the defender that we all knew, the defender that won the Champions League and the World Cup double. He's a leader even when Ramos isn't there, because one of the sticks to beat Varane was if Ramos isn't there, Varane can't lead this back line. But Varane's shown he can when he has Militao next to him. And he's just been titanic. It's just been so incredible. And Carvajal as well, getting forward, and he's better defensively this season. A lot of people ruled him out as well. It's just all coming together, and I think one of the keys to this whole transformation defensively is Fede Valverde, who, I don't know, yesterday I noticed it. You may have noticed this as well, Michael, that when Fede Valverde is playing, I feel like Casemiro has less to do. I feel like Casemiro can almost coast, but not coast as in he doesn't do anything, as in he just goes under the radar a bit. He just does his job, but it's just normal. He's just putting in 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Like no one even blinks an eye. No one even notices how solid Casemiro is because Fede Valverde is this end-to-end monster that just keeps on hoovering up the second balls and making Madrid progressive and linking defense and mid to midfield and midfield to attack. He's just everywhere. So I think Zidane picking Fede Valverde instead of Marcos Llorente has been a key part of this season. I will quickly, to end on, Michael, do you think we can win the league this year? You mentioned that goals are an issue, and you mentioned Benzema is the only one in double figures at the moment. But with Hazard coming back, with Asensio slowly going to be coming back, with Gareth Bale coming back, Zidane should have everyone fit and healthy. That's got to be crucial, hasn't it? It's got to be pivotal in the title race when arguably your two best players on merit haven't even been involved in this 20-odd game unbeaten run.
I think you're spot on. If you look strictly at Madrid, can they win the title? Sure. This is not going to be one of those seasons where they're getting an historic number of points. It's not one of the best Madrid sides you've seen in terms of attack. Even when you look at the guys coming back, Asensio, I pray that he comes back fully fit. I pray that he comes back to good form, not because I like Madrid, just because I never want to see anybody have that kind of an injury that kills a career. But I don't expect it. We've seen too many people have the injury he had and struggle for 18 months to really get back to full fitness. It changes the way you play on the ball. It changes how courageous you are, changes how bold you are when you run at attackers. So, you hope for the best there. I don't put a lot on it. Bale, goodness, I can't remember the last time he strung 3 good matches together. So you're not going to bet on much from him. Hazard, it's his first season. He admitted he's had issues with fitness. He started getting in a good little run of form near the end. He hasn't been bad by any means. Don't hear me say that. But he's not someone who's going to come in and, give you 8, 9, 10 goals in the second half, probably. So you're putting a lot on your Frenchman to carry the goal-scoring load. However, even with his dip, he went just over a month without scoring a goal before yesterday. Even then, Madrid's been winning matches, man. They're getting goals from all over the place. So is that your ideal? Is that something that if it was the summer, you say you're content with it? Absolutely not. You need more. You need to diversify the attack. You need to diversify who's bringing in goals. But nonetheless, they're winning. And they're winning on the back of their defense. I can't remember the last time we said that about Real Madrid. But that's the reality. And that's the kind of team that could ground out results. So, again, just looking only at Madrid, they can win. They're not in and of themselves the kind of side that I would say that's a La Liga winning side when everybody's at their best. They're not that dangerous. But then you have to look at who they're competing against. It's only Barcelona. And they were struggling before the managerial change. I think they're going to slowly come into their own, play better football, be a bit more threatening in front of goal. But, oh, man, I think I would never expect a team that has a manager change in the middle of the season to win out against a team like Real Madrid. So it's going to be tight. I would bet on Madrid winning. I think Barcelona is going to slip up a bit more. Manager change, it helped with the kind of football they're playing over there. I don't think it solved some of the most fundamental issues in personnel and along that spine. So they're going to drop points, I expect. And I really think Madrid's my favorite, not because they're spectacular and blowing people away, but because they seem best built to grind out results, especially limit dropped points to the smaller sides. And that's usually what wins it out. Classico will be big. Everybody's going to love watching them play. That's not going to determine the title, probably. It's which side is going to drop the fewest winnable points between now and the end of the season.
And on that note, we shall end this very interesting chat. Thank you for joining me, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure. As always, discussing football with you. Your knowledge is incredible, and you're more than often spot on about whatever you say. So thank you for that. And thank you to you guys for listening and for your support. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment in the comment section what you liked about this, what you disliked, and what you'd like to see going forward. I'm open to ideas. I want to give you guys more content. So yeah, please get involved. Please help me out and tell me what you guys want to see. But yeah, thanks for joining me for this episode. We move. A la Madrid.